I told you earlier in the week that I'd be talking with Michael O Doherty, the healthcare consultant with michaelodoherty.com, and I have him on the line now a little bit later than promised, so my apologies, Michael, for holding you up. Thanks for taking the call. Good morning.
Not at all. I was listening to your show there, Neil. Lots of interesting stuff.
And I know you'd have been listening to Eileen there, because I wanted to talk to you more about just chemicals in the environment and things like that in general, but the chemicals in fags, it's just incredible.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, absolutely. That's the thing about this is that, these chemicals that are in cigarettes, I mean, they were shown to cause lung cancer and so on. So, absolutely, from coronary issues to different types of things. So, I mean, it was great that Eileen was able to give them up, and it was, and it should be inspirational to people, that if you do make up your mind and if you do take responsibility and make the right decision, that you can, overcome the need to have these things, whether it be cigarettes or any other type of chemicals, really,
Yeah. This time of the year, of course, people are sicker than any other time of the year, okay? And the A&Es are clogged up and we've all sorts of flus and all sorts of conditions. But generally speaking, bearing that in mind, right, and society that we live in today, where people are suffering from all sorts of different issues, gastric issues, things that may or may not be genetic, people suffering more and more miscarriages, can't get pregnant, the increases in Alzheimer's, the earlier ages where people are getting dementia, all of these different things are in some ways environmental, you believe. Am I right?
Yeah, well, look, for many, many years, the evidence has been there to show clearly that even the cleaning chemicals that we use on a day-to-day basis contributes to creating an environment that affects our system. There's lots of evidence there. It primarily affects more women, Neil, than men. And the thing is that this is due, according to research that was done in Harvard in an article that was published in the New Scientist, Scientific American magazine in 2012, where they were able to say that, it was affecting women because it was affecting their hormonal system. And this had a direct influence on the metabolism of the woman and could affect the reproductive system and could lead to a number of conditions like obesity, diabetes, possible fertility issues, and so on. And I think when you look at the amount of chemicals that people use on a day-to-day basis in their homes, I mean, forget about what's outside, because what you have to understand is in the world there are 70,000 different chemicals, 1,000 being created every year. So when you have a home where you have continuous sprays killing bacteria, cleaning furniture, scented candles, all of these things, this is creating an environment, chemical environment, and we're living in it, and it is affecting us, and it is causing problems, and I think people need to begin to realise that.
What's it in the sense that is it breaking down people's immune systems, is it?
Absolutely, because everything that we inhale, is going to have an immune response. I mean, if you look at the Asthma Society of Ireland, for example, they'll make the point very clear that if you have children at home with asthma, and if you expose them to anything about what we just talked about, whether they be sprays or whether it be scented candles or these perfumes or different fly killers or whatever the case may be, that you can trigger an asthmatic reaction, because the immune system is and the human body is going to respond to its environment. And I often think about this image when I see clients coming to my clinic and parents with children who have various types of allergies and so on, and we see so much increase in allergies, different types of symptoms that these children have. And I want you to have the image that if you have a child at home in a child seat, for example, or kids sitting at a table and they're having their meal and they mess up or whatever, and suddenly you see this image where you have a parent or another member of family coming over with a spray, literally spraying the countertop or the table or the child seat, and it's just full of toxins. It's not just cleaning, but it's also affecting the child, it's affecting the children around the table, it's affecting ourselves, and it's causing an immune response. It's breaking the immune system down. And I would say...
Are you saying that people shouldn't use... these cleaning products couldn't be used in society if they weren't safe, surely?
They're not safe. They're not safe. And I mean, that is why, as I said to you, the likes of the research that's done and the Asthmatic Society are making these points. You see, what you have to understand is this, that a lot of these, let's say perfumes, plastic bottles, for example, they have their flexibility because they have chemicals called phthalates. Now, these phthalates make it flexible. They make plastic flexible, for example. You take perfumes. In order to stabilize the perfume itself, the actual
scent,
colors, whatever, in order to stabilize, they have to put certain chemicals in. So when you're spraying all the time these chemicals and using these chemicals, for anybody can look at the research around this. When you're spraying these chemicals all the time, they are a hazard to the body. They are affecting the hormonal system. They are affecting the reproductive system. They are contributing to obesity. We hear loads of women talking about wanting to lose weight. Why is it more women than men are suffering from this? We look at conditions, like you said earlier on, where people are much sicker now with fibromyalgia, with anxiety, with blood pressure issues, for example. So
behavioural issues, ADD, ADHD?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the types of chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, cleaning sprays, diesel, lead, all of these types of things. When you look at flame retardants, different types of pollutants, all of these things, we are spraying them within our own home.
Well, why do you make the point that women are suffering more? Because you can't suggest anymore that women spend more time in the home.
No, but what they're saying is that women are more susceptible to these types of problems.
Their body, their biological makeup, is it?
Correct. Because of how it affects the hormone system. And that this is possibly leading to increases in certain types of reproductive or hormonal-based cancers, or possibly contributing to maybe fertility issues. I mean,
chronic fatigue syndrome, things like that?
Pardon?
Chronic fatigue syndrome?
Yeah, chronic fatigue syndrome, all of these things, because if you are exposed to, acute toxic activity within the home, you're likely to collapse, you're likely to feel weak, to feel nausea, to feel different types of things. But what happens now is, and there's a lot of articles being published in the media right now, Neil, about this, and in the Mail last week, multiple chemical sensitivity, human beings becoming allergic to their own world, to their own planet. And what's happening is that the slow release of these chemicals on a day-to-day basis, these sprays that so-called kill bacteria, when they kill, if you're spraying something to kill, it's an airborne product, you're taking it into your system, and it's going to kill and affect the bacteria in your system. It's also going to affect your hormonal system.
I was in a restaurant recently where there was this girl who had kind of the industrial version of a cleaning product, right? Mm-hmm. And it was a spray one, which would only be available, I imagine, to the catering or to the services industry, like hotels and restaurants. And she had it, and she had a cloth. There was no water now, but she was going around like a mad thing, spraying all of the tables, right?
Yeah.
With lots of this, and you could see the cloud of it in the air. And then she, with the cloth, on all of the same tables, the same cloth, she would then clean the product into the table. Right? Yeah. And then after that, then she would put down a knife, all the knives and forks, mm-hmm. and on top of the table, on top of the spray, if you like, she put the napkins and everything. And then she moved to the next table and the next table and the next table. Is that the wrong thing to do?
It absolutely is the wrong thing to do. Now, you can imagine, depending on how many tables are there, how many times have those tables been sprayed?
They're sprayed every time somebody leaves them. This spray is used again.
Yeah. Correctly. So you have this odor, this kind of scent, this kind of toxic chemicals being sprayed into the atmosphere. Now you have people going in who might be sick, who might have anxiety issues, who might have asthmatic symptoms, kids going in who might have weak immune systems, who have an overload. Because when you're continuously in society today, there's a spray for everything. And when we're exposed to that on a continuous basis, we overload the system. When we overload the system, then we become what's called chemically sensitive. And when we become chemically sensitive, we have a reaction then when we enter environments. Some people can't walk down the aisle of supermarkets. Some people can't walk into certain perfumery shops.
But they're the exception, Michael, though.
Not really, because you see, we equate the acute reaction to something as a serious problem. But the issue is, people don't understand it. People don't realize that it's things within their own homes that could be causing their sinus issues. It could be causing their asthmatic.
If you have a tiled floor or a wooden floor and you use, say, bleach or heavy cleaners that kill everything, and then, say, a child is crawling around the floor.
Yeah, straight away I'd be saying to people, what happened to the good old-fashioned bucket of water with your mop if you have to use something. Once it's not sprayed, I think at least if you're putting something in, but some type of not severe chemical.
What about bleach?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely crazy that we think that we can just take these chemicals, spray them on floors, spray them on furniture.
Yeah, but bleach is diluted in water, though.
Yeah, but the same thing. A continuous exposure to these, if they build up in the system. There was a fantastic documentary done by the Chicago Tribune. They did 10 years of it. It's called Toxic Hot Seat, that anybody wants to watch it. And they talked about the dangers of flame retardants and other chemicals within the home and the implications.
But flame retardants is on furniture. I mean, it's to stop the house going up on fire.
Correct, yes, but so they were also on cigarettes. But the problem is that when you have people, let's say again you take children who are, scraping furniture, or people who have their hands on furniture. You talked about a few moments ago where you're getting your knives and your forks and your napkins and the glasses and on the table. You're coming in, leaving your hands. Those hands are taking those chemicals, those retardants, and they are going into your system. In the average American, urine analysis shows that anything up to 700 of these chemicals are found in different individuals, and that some of them are carcinogenic.
What is it that happened with Johnson & Johnson baby talc? There was a multiple suit in America.
That's correct, yeah. So again, the lead, the different types of chemicals. Can I just explain one very important thing to you, Neil, here? It just might help people to understand. We store, for example, we have a lot of mercury and lead, and a lot of these chemicals are neurotoxic. They're carcinogenic. They affect the brain, they affect the nervous system, they cause learning and behavioural difficulties. All of the evidence is out there. We see the dangers of weed killers like glyphosate. I know people myself who use them who've ended up very seriously ill. In actual fact, I had a guy in my clinic this week who seriously suffers from the excessive overload of toxicity. But there is a condition called osteoporosis in women, for example. Now, when we are young and we store lead, we store lead in the bone. Okay, there's a certain amount in tissue and in blood, but the vast majority of it is stored in the bone and the teeth. When women are, as we get older, and as women get older, if they develop osteoporosis, there's a possibility, there's research shows, that the lead is released into the system, reabsorbed, affects the kidney function, can lead to kidney failure, cause blood pressure and heart failure and different types of symptoms then. So when we see the increases in diseases now in elderly people, even the likes of dementia and Alzheimer's and all of that, is this as a result now of all of the chemicals that we've been taking into our system? So we can't ignore it.
Well, you're saying that there wasn't Alzheimer's or dementia 100 years ago?
I think the increases are far too serious to not include the environment. Our environment is contributing hugely, like we chose to ignore many years ago that smoking causes cancer, or like we chose to ignore that mobile phones contribute to certain types of conditions and cancers. If we chose to continue to ignore the excessive amount of chemicals that we are using within our own home.
Would you allude to a seemingly alarming amount of people getting Alzheimer's or dementia at a younger age, being that as well?
Absolutely. I mean, again, people can go on themselves. I was, funny enough, last night, Neil, I was watching a documentary on BBC, okay? And it was called Fighting for Air. I just happened to turn it on, okay? And I think it was King's Heath, a local council, decided just to measure the pollution and the environment of the schools where people were coming every morning and delivering their children. And it was showing that when people were having this stop-start with their car, that it was releasing far more fumes. And they did the actual research and they changed the way the street lights worked. They got them all, the traffic flowing differently. They had this free air day or cleaner air day where they got more people to walk to school, but they were able to reduce the pollution by 30%. They were showing quite clearly that you have children parents pulling up to school every morning, kids getting out of the cars, going into schools in an environment that's full of pollution, full of different types of pollutants from diesel and from so on, and contributing hugely to various types of symptoms. when we look at the sicknesses that are there today, we cannot ignore the environment.
Okay, hold that point, hold that thought. I want to just come and take an ad break and finish up after the break and move on to sickness and the connection with the home, particularly at this time of the year. Talking with Michael O Doherty, the healthcare consultant, back after the break. You can text 0868 104 106.
The Neil Prendeville Show on Cork's Red FM. Our phone lines remain open after midday, 1850 104 106.
Get in touch, guys. You can always email Neil at redfm.ie. I just want to pick up on some texts already. Neil is right. Talcum powder was associated with cases of ovarian cancer, according to recent lawsuits in America. Anna wonders, is furniture polish bad as well? Another one here, Dave says, what should we use then to clean our homes? Like mold, which is dangerous in a bathroom. How do you remove it from tiles without products? I'm wondering whether, soap and water keeps things clean at all. What about restaurants that clean the tables at night and then put the dirty seats onto the lovely clean tables? Does that pose an infection? I bring wipes everywhere I go, says Margaret. Another one here, both my kids used to go to a creche, and when I collected them, their eyes were red, watery, and they would be sneezing continuously. When I spoke to them about it, they said it happened when the staff were cleaning the floors. Michael just explained why it happened to them. Thank you. Would Michael be okay using the eco products within the home or essential oils, or would these be considered chemicals as well, says Louisa. And then another one, what about chlorine in our water, for God's sake, says Helen. Just an interesting response there from the public, Michael.
Yeah, I think there's a huge concern out there, Neil, and if you bring it down from the environment, if you look at the amount of chemicals in food, for example, I mean, we know that some documentaries have been done on Irish TV. I mean, even Dr. Ava, she was talking about when we have certain chemicals in foods, processed foods, how this leads to serious diseases and cancers and so on.
And learning difficulties?
Absolutely. Because
behavioural issues?
Listen, absolutely. I remember working in the Orkney Islands and Shetland Islands, working with people with MS. And there was a huge issue there. And it turned out that it actually it was caused by sheep dip, okay? So organic phosphate, because it was a nerve gas, technically. So a lot of these chemicals that we take into our system affects our brain, affects our nervous system, affects blood function, affects our hormone system. And when we see the increases in fertility issues, when we see the increases in cancers, in the neurodegenerative types of diseases, when we see all of these children suffering, if a mother is pregnant, and it's shown that if she's taking in high levels of these chemicals, that it can influence the fetal development.
And there was none of these issues per se when people didn't have these products, or indeed ate healthily and didn't eat convenience or processed or highly products with high additives in them.
No, I mean, absolutely.
You're saying that? I mean, people still got cancer, right?
Well, I think the increases, sometimes people equate it to the to the amount of people that's in the world today. I don't buy into that. I mean, it's only, I grew up in a family of, there was 12 in our family with 10 survived, but I grew up in a family of 10, and that's only like 35 years ago, when I can remember back and say, God, I couldn't remember the amount of people who were sick. I mean, there was very little of it about. But now everybody is sick. Our hospitals are full of people. We have flus, we have weak immune systems, we have disease.
Our homes are impregnable with triple glazing. The heating is on. What's that doing to us?
Well, we're in a bubble. We're in a bubble that's full of chemicals. We are a biosystem, an ecosystem, and if our ecosystem is altered, then we're going to have these problems. And there are alternatives. There are alternatives, because I think that's the key to it. We can use the water, and we can use the weaker detergents, to clean floors, to clean tops, and to work with them. And we can, there are lots of different ways that we can get it out of the body. So, I mean, for people who are listening, who might find themselves chemically sensitive, who might find themselves in environments where there's excessive chemicals, you've got to this is what the whole word detoxify is about, Neil. If we want to detoxify our body, what are we detoxifying? It's not just fats and sugars. What we are looking to detoxify are chemicals, because it's the chemicals that's altering our system, affecting our reproductive system, affecting our metabolism. That's what's causing the obesity. That's what's causing the other issues, the endocrine issues, thyroid function and other problems. And that's what's leading to our sicknesses. So, we're looking to spend, we think for one moment, and your listeners might appreciate this, we're spending billions and fighting over global warming and the toxicity that's causing the ozone layer to break down and the increase in temperatures and so on. We are doing the exact same thing to ourselves inside our own home. We are no different. And there's not one penny spent in educating people to realise the dangers that we are causing to our ecosystem, like our planet, inside our own home, Neil.
You're including, for instance, spray deodorants in this, furniture polish, anything that has a spray.
Yeah, only today. I posted something on Facebook with regard to deodorants and the aluminium salts in deodorants that have shown to contribute to women's health issues, serious health issues. I have that on Facebook. So,
you think that the environment and all of these chemical aspects have an issue with regards to women not being able to get pregnant or high rates of miscarriage?
Absolutely. I mean, again, we only yesterday I saw an Independent where ibuprofen was shown to cause infertility in men. Well, what's ibuprofen but a chemical? So we see quite clearly that our air...
But they go through all sorts of trials and they have to jump through all sorts of hoops before they ever get licenses to be able to sell their products.
I accept all of that, but every drug has a side effect. Every chemical has a reaction in the body. That's the reality of it. For some... people might not think that they're reacting to it, but if you're in a home or in an environment where you're continuously exposed to chemicals of some degree or other, whether they be perfumes or sprays, if you go into toilets in hotels, you'll hear this thing, and every time you go in there, there's like a psst, it's this thing firing out chemicals all the time into the toilet. This stuff is poisoning our body. It might not be now that people will really face up to it. 5-10 years down the road, we will see the massive increases in diseases that are unexplainable, like what's happening today.
Okay.
Trying to cure them, and we can't cure them because people are going back into their homes where they're spraying this stuff and using chemicals that are causing them.
Okay.
Clean the home up, but clean it naturally.
Okay.
Get rid of the chemicals. That's the real key.
Okay. In conversation with you earlier in the week, we were talking about the new year. I've only got about 30 seconds left, though. But we were talking about people trying to be content and be happy in their lives and all these new resolutions. And I wrote down what you said to me at the time. You said all people want in life is contentment. They should have a chat. They should turn off their phone. People are preoccupied with the quest for fame and should be preoccupied with happiness. We are preoccupied with other people's lives and we measure happiness all wrong.
Correct. Yeah, we often measure happiness on the basis of what we achieve in life. So we want to get the new car, the new house, the new bag, the new whatever. We measure our happiness based on something external. When we get that, then we push happiness out further. The key is really happiness and all of that. Forget about that. Is to be content with where we're at, and to move, without putting ourselves at risk, because look, we're all on a journey to the grave and we want to make our life as easy as we possibly can. So, if we want to chase happiness, first of all, we have to find contentment within ourselves and, getting out amongst nature, living life in a much more simpler way. Often our body can eliminate weight and waste and be much healthier when we do things like that. And I think if we look around the country, the people who do that, they're far happier.
Okay, good talking to you, Michael. We'll talk again soon. Much obliged to you for taking my call.
God bless.
Healthcare consultant Michael O'Doherty. Further details at www.michaelodoherty.com. Back after the break to wrap up.
The Neil Prendeville Show.
With Kiri's Hyundai. See what a new Hyundai can do for you today. Kiri's Hyundai, Cork, Mallow and Middleton. Discover why.